Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, this is a continuation of my series about the lynching of Jordan Edwards. He's a 15-year-old African American boy who was lynched by Balch Springs Police. The brother was leaving a party. He was in a car. He was pulling away. He was in the car and they were pulling away from the scene of a party. They didn't pose any kind of threat to the police at all. They were completely unarmed. They had done nothing wrong. Their only crime was being black in America. So you had this police officer open fire upon these young men with an AR-15. And he shot one of these young men in the head, and that young man's name is Jordan Edwards, 15 years old, a straight A student, a football player, somebody who was loved and respected in the community, somebody that has no criminal record, has no disciplinary record. This brother did absolutely nothing wrong, and he was shot and killed by this stinking pig. Now, today, while I was in the movies, I got an alert on my phone indicating that this cop who killed this young brother has been charged with murder, and an arrest warrant has been issued. And I'm glad that this has happened. I'm glad that he has not only been fired, but now he faces criminal charges for murder. And I just hope that this is not just some measure to appease people temporarily, to calm people down by putting on a show trial simply to calm the people down. Because from what I understand, they had a former mayor who's black issue some kind of statement basically designed to calm people down, to stop people from being outraged. And also the family, they are scheduled to have the funeral for this young brother, Jordan Edwards, tomorrow. And they asked that people not protest until after the funeral and all that kind of stuff. And I think that I just hope that people are not trying to simply pacify the people or calm the people, because I think that the people have a legitimate issue here with these police. The people have to express their outrage, because without the people, there would be no trial and all that kind of stuff. You wouldn't even have body cameras if it wasn't for people protesting, demanding an end to police brutality. So I think that this is a positive development. And I also think that this is an eye-opening development. It should be eye-opening for this Justice Department. But I doubt that they would even open their eyes to this whole situation, because this situation involving the lynching of this young brother is just another reminder of how many of these police departments and many police officers have no value. They don't place any value at all on black life. They will take a black life in a heartbeat. And this is a administration, and I'm talking about the Trump administration, and I'm talking about Jeff Sessions as the Attorney General. Under this administration, they are trying to reconsider all these consent decrees that they have entered with various police departments, or they're in the process of entering. These consent decrees were designed to end discriminatory practices. They were implemented and put into place under the Obama administration. And now you had this Southern cracker, Jeff Sessions, trying to reconsider all these consent decrees, trying to renegotiate them or possibly even eliminate them. At a time when you have cases like this Jordan Edwards situation. And I think that this is only the beginning. I think right now, they are trying to do everything that they can to pacify the people. But just to get back to this point about the Justice Department, I just think that this should tell the Justice Department that you need to have these consent decrees in place. But I think that, right now we're just at the tip of this situation. The videotape hasn't even been released. If that videotape is released, I think the outrage is just going to boil over. And, this trial is barely containing the outrage. So, I think that this is positive, but this is only the first step. We know how a lot of these cases turn out. We know that often and frequently, police, when they are rarely even tried, too often they get away with it. They get off, they get acquitted, because this system is designed to protect police who brutalize our people. So I'm cautiously optimistic about this situation, and I think that now is the time to even step up the pressure and to remain vigilant. And I hope the people there continue to protest, after this funeral. I hope the people can, start to protest, start to organize, start to let the people know that we're not tolerating this kind of violence against our young people. Here you have a brother who's in a like hasn't even reached his prime yet, a young 15-year-old boy. He will never go to college. He will never have kids. He will never have a career. His life has completely been snuffed out. His potential has been snuffed out. His future generations have been snuffed out. And, I just hope that this officer is actually convicted. And, one thing that came out in this whole situation, like as I was reviewing the news reports, they talked about how this man has a history of aggressive behavior with his colleagues and with people in the public. There's one situation where he actually pointed a gun at somebody simply for bumping his car. There was an accident where somebody accidentally rear-ended him. And because of that, this man who was in plain clothes at the time, off duty, he gets out of his car and he starts pulling out a gun. This man is unstable. And also they pointed out how this man is a veteran. And, you know, I think that there's something wrong with a lot of these veterans. I mean, a lot of these veterans suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome. I mean, and I think that they may try to use that as some kind of way out of this case, or some kind of way to say that he didn't have the necessary mindset to be culpable, criminally culpable. I hope they don't try to raise that kind of argument. But I think that there is something wrong with a lot of these veterans. I mean, a lot of times when you had these mass shootings, the people who perpetrate those crimes often are people who have been in the military. So, I just think that this is troubling. I think that this whole thing could have been prevented if the police actually policed their own. I mean, here you have a man with an aggressive history, a history of using excessive force, a history of being inappropriate, overly aggressive. They could have fired this guy a long time ago before he had an opportunity to snuff out this young brother's life. The police department could have prevented this tragedy by taking appropriate disciplinary action against this guy a long time ago. Too often what happens is, these police, they get a slap on the wrist when they do something wrong, when they violate people's rights. There's no real discipline too often, for officers who engage in excessive force within the police department. When citizens file complaints against these officers, they keep up and they maintain that blue code where they protect their own against the people. And that's completely unacceptable. And it results in situations like this. This whole thing could have been prevented if the police took disciplinary action against this guy a long time ago and fired him for violating various policies. They gave him like a few days of suspension for some acts of aggression against people. So those are my thoughts. Tell me what you think. Please like this video, subscribe, and comment. Peace.